everyone. My name is Kayla Eckstein. Today, I'm going to be talking to you all about building strong relationships and a little bit about the office that I work in, sexual violence response. So, like I said, my name is Kayla. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a prevention coordinator with sexual violence response. So, I'm one of our staff members focusing on our prevention work. And in a little bit, I'll cover kind of what that prevention work looks like, as well as the other areas of our work. So today I'm going to cover who SVR is, or sexual violence response, who we are, what resources and services we can offer you. We're going to talk a little bit about characteristics of healthy or thriving relationships, and then talk about the role that boundaries play in those relationships and how we can use boundaries to help us keep ourselves safe and help maintain the thriving nature of relationships. And then we'll close out with how you can connect more with SVR. So who is sexual violence response? Our mission at Sexual Violence Response is to aim to end gender and power-based violence through collective community action. We create social change by building a compassionate and accountable community with a commitment to increasing resources and support for survivors and co-survivors of violence. So the terms that I kind of want to pull out of our mission here are, our name is sexual violence response, but we cover a range of behaviors that fall under the umbrella term gender and power-based violence. So that does include sexual violence. It also includes intimate partner or relationship violence. It includes stalking. It includes sexual harassment and past trauma. So any experience with a form of violence before someone's joined the Columbia community, SVR can still be a resource for them. And then the other thing I want to define here is this term survivor and co-survivor. So a survivor is language that we use to talk about someone who has experienced violence directly. And a co-survivor is anyone who's in that survivor's life that is in the position of supporting them. So anyone who that survivor has shared their story with. So we'll talk about our helpline in a little bit, but what I like to kind of say is you can call or come to SVR and say, hey, something happened to me and I need help navigating resources and talking about how I'm feeling and figuring out what my next steps are. Or you can come to SVR and you can say, hey, my friend and roommate told me that something happened to them and I need to talk about how I'm feeling and figure out what resources are available to me and what resources I can offer to them and figure out, how I can be the most supportive person to the survivor in my life. So all of the work that we do at SVR is trauma-informed, survivor-centered, and confidential. That confidential piece is a really important part of our work. We'll talk about confidential and not confidential resources in a little bit towards the end. But confidential means that everything you share with SVR stays between you and SVR. We're a closed box. We are not a reporting resource. So we don't share what we learn with the university or with any other office. We keep all information private and confidential within our office. So that can make our office and other confidential resources a really good starting point because it allows survivors and co-survivors to speak openly about what's happened without initiating a report until or if they're ready to do that. Who makes up our team? So we have kind of two main areas of our work, our direct services team. That includes survivor advocates who are staff members that are trained to support and advocate for survivors, intake specialists who help folks who are coming into our office kind of navigate resources and make sure that they're getting connected to the right resource for them. We have helpline advocates and peer advocates who are trained students who help support our helpline and help our advocacy services and help our direct services team. And then we have our prevention team, which is where I sit. We have prevention coordinators on that team who facilitate trainings and do all of our prevention activities with us. And then we have peer educators as well, who are, again, trained students who do our prevention activity with us. So they co-facilitate trainings, they help plan events, they help table and do outreach. All of our prevention activities they're trained to do. So how do we support students? The first thing that we keep in mind through all areas of our work is this idea of intersectionality. So recognizing that we all have a variety of identities that are intersecting to create a really unique experience for us. and that can present access to support and resources, and it can present barriers to support and resources. So at SVR, in all areas of our work, we work to center the whole person, to meet people where they are with all of their identities, and to remove barriers where we can. We know that everyone with all of their identities deserves supportive resources and respectful relationships, and that's something that we strive to do in all areas of our work. So our advocacy work is our work that our direct services team does. Our advocacy work includes crisis intervention and safety planning. This can look like use of our 24/7 helpline, which the number will be accessible towards the end. Use of our 24/7 helpline in moments of crisis, working with a survivor advocate to make a plan for a survivor to stay safe, whether that's staying safe for the night, for the weekend, for a week, for however long they need, until either the event is over or until they can come in and make a longer term plan with an advocate. We also do information referrals and options. So there's a lot that we do at SVR, and there's a lot that we don't do. And for the things that we don't do, we have close relationships with offices on and off campus to make sure that we can get folks connected to the care that they need. So one example of that is our advocates are great and supportive resources, but they are advocates. They are not therapists. And so while we do not offer therapy, we have close relationships with counseling and psychological services, as well as other mental health services on and off campus, to make sure that folks can get connected to therapy or support groups or other mental health resources that they may need. Another example of this is our advocates can help folks kind of navigate systems within the university or outside of the university. And so an example of that might look like someone who needs emergency housing on campus, someone who lives on campus that needs to leave their housing immediately and find a new place to live. There's systems for that, right? And our advocates can help folks navigate those systems and make sure that they're getting connected to the support that they need. We also offer our 24/7 year-round and telephonic support that shows up through our helpline. Like I said, the number will be at the end, so stick around for that. You can also quickly Google Columbia SVR and our helpline number will pop up. But our 24/7 helpline is answered by a real person any time of day or night. So every single day, every single night, all year, 2 a.m. New Year's Day, a real person is going to answer the phone and talk to someone who's in a moment of crisis and help connect them with resources. And that 24/7 support extends to our in-person services like accompaniment. And so if a survivor needs to go to the hospital in the middle of the night and doesn't want to go alone, they can call the helpline and a survivor advocate will help make sure they get to the hospital safely. We'll sit with them at the hospital for as long as they need. And that accompaniment extends to other areas like court accompaniment, police precinct, really anywhere that a survivor may need an advocate, we can show up for them. We also have care package items. Our care package items are things that a survivor may need in the aftermath of experiencing violence. We have these items free for survivors, and items that we don't have, we can work with survivors to make sure we get for them. We also have our peer-to-peer advocacy. These are our trained student volunteers who work with the helpline and work with survivors one-on-one as advocates. Our peer advocates and helpline advocates are great positions. We're recruiting for those positions now. So be sure to check out our website to figure out how you can get involved with us in that way. And then we also offer remote temporary orders of protection. So we're one of a few locations in the city that can get temporary orders of protection remotely. Our prevention work, that's kind of my bread and butter as a prevention coordinator, is work that we do on campus to kind of change attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors to help prevent violence from happening in the first place. So that looks like interactive workshops, both virtually and in person. These are open sessions or sessions that we do with individual student groups by request. All of our education is skills-based and focuses on a range of topics. So things like consent, thriving relationships, like we're going to talk about today, masculinity, accepting rejection, all of these are things that we cover. We have Peace and Presence, which is a mindfulness series that we do. We have some Peace and Presence sessions coming up in October, so check out our website to see those. And then we have Awareness Month events. October is Relationship Violence Awareness Month. And so we have a lot of events coming up. Again, check out the website and you'll be able to see those soon. And then we also have our peer educators. So our peer-to-peer education program are trained student volunteers who do all of our prevention activities with us. Outreach, so we collaborate with the community on and off campus. We love working with student groups, like really, truly love it. And so if you're part of a student group and you want to collaborate with us on an event or have us come and host a training for your members, please reach out to us. And we love to do that. You'll see us on learner ramps or at other schools around Columbia tabling, making sure that folks are aware of our services and aware of kind of whatever awareness month or whatever event has brought us out to table. We do social media campaigns and have men's engagement initiatives to make sure that male-identified survivors feel comfortable accessing our services and that male-identified folks are participating in our prevention conversations and activities as well. So moving into characteristics of healthy or thriving relationships. This is kind of the cornerstone of everything that we strive for at SVR, is these healthy or thriving relationships. And these relationships can show up in a number of ways. So I think when folks think about SVR, we typically think about intimate relationships or romantic relationships. But the stuff that we're going to cover today can really cover a range of relationships. So family members, friends, professors, strangers even. We're in relation with everyone around us. So I know that you all can't talk to me, but now is a good time to maybe brainstorm some relationships in your life that you want to maybe evaluate today or think through a little deeper. So we at SVR think about relationships as existing on this spectrum of thriving, fraught, and abusive behaviors. And we're going to focus on thriving relationships today and talk through some characteristics of thriving relationships that can show up. Thriving relationships are also sometimes called healthy relationships, but they're just relationships that are good and fulfilling, that are meeting the needs and that are mutually respectful. So thriving relationships exist when there is balance, trust, and communication present in the relationship. Some characteristics of that can look like respect, encouraging personal growth. So in a romantic relationship, that could look like encouraging your partner to go to therapy. In a friendship, that could look like encouraging your friend to apply for the fellowship that they really want, because you think it's going to help them grow academically or professionally. It looks like willingness to compromise, being willing to meet halfway, or sometimes recognizing that we need to meet someone more than halfway, right? Sometimes it's 50-50. Other times it's going to be 80-20, and then it's going to be 30-70. But finding balance in the compromise that we do in relationships. Honoring each other's boundaries. We're going to talk a lot more about boundaries in a little bit. Honesty and accountability. Moving at a comfortable pace. So in romantic relationships, we think about kind of when do different relationship milestones come about? When do folks kind of define or take the next step in their relationship? Making sure that we're communicating with each other to move at a pace that's comfortable for both of us. And to do that communication, we need that communication to be healthy and thriving and open. We want to strive for equality in our relationships. In intimate relationships or romantic relationships, make mutual sexual choices. Have trust and support present so we can do all of these things. Enjoy spending time together and apart. So not feeling pressured to spend time together, feeling excited about the time you're together and excited about the alone time that you have or the time that you have with your other friends. And then economic partnership or shared economic decisions are another important characteristic of thriving relationships. So how do boundaries relate to thriving relationships? So we know that honoring boundaries is an important characteristic of thriving relationships. And when we think about boundaries, we're talking about guidelines, rules, or limits that you create to identify for yourself what are reasonable and safe ways for other people to behave around you. So boundaries can help us define comfortability or stay comfortable. They can help explain to other people how you would like them to treat you. They can help you honor what you need, what your goals are, what your feelings and values are. And they actually help us strengthen and manage our relationships within people and within ourselves. So I know setting boundaries or even things like saying no can sometimes feel like we're pushing folks away or can feel tricky to do. But when we set boundaries, when we're honest about what we need and we trust people enough to communicate our needs in that way, what we're doing is we're giving them the chance to show up for us. And we're giving that relationship the chance to strengthen and grow into something that we both trust, into something that's truly thriving. So one quote that I really love, that I think kind of embodies everything we were just talking about boundaries is, boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. So boundaries are not selfish, right? Boundaries keep ourselves safe, but they also help protect other people and our relationships with other people. They help strengthen that. We can set boundaries for a lot of different things and with a lot of different folks. So things like our body, things like physical touch, emotions, work, and time. If you're going to be late, please give me a heads up over text, or, hey, I would love to chat and support you right now. I only have about 20 minutes before I have to go make dinner. Setting boundaries around time like that, or our energy or our space, boundaries around communication. I really love talking to you, but texting me every hour can feel a little overwhelming. Can we pick check-in points throughout the day where we can check in with each other rather than constantly texting? Could be an example of a boundary around communication or technology. And these are boundaries that we can set with our partners, romantic or platonic. We can set them with our family, with teachers and peers, with strangers, roommates, and classmates. Really anyone in our life we can and should set boundaries with. And another way that we can keep our relationships thriving is by looking out for each other. And so with that, we really like to focus on bystander intervention. This is something that you all have probably seen before, the 5 steps of bystander intervention. But just as a review, we want to be aware of our surroundings, to be noticing what's happening around us, noticing an event, interpreting it as a problem, checking in with our gut, checking in if there's any ambiguity, and seeing, is this a problem? Is this something where harm is being caused or might be caused soon? And then we have to take personal responsibility, right? We have to say, okay, this is a problem. And it's a problem that I care enough about my relationships, about my community, about Columbia's community to intervene in, to step in. I want to take responsibility for creating a community of care and a culture of accountability. And so when you step in, you need to know how to help before you take action. To know how to help, we have 5 Ds, or 5 different options of ways that you can intervene. We have direct, which is a direct way of intervening. That's what a lot of people think of when they think of intervention. It's directly addressing the person who is causing or experiencing harm. We also have some other options if that's not the safest or most comfortable one in the moment. So we have distract, which is a little bit of a more creative option. It can be a way to diffuse tension or give someone an out of a situation. We have delegate, which is acknowledging that maybe you're not the best person to intervene in that moment, but you still have noticed something and want to take responsibility. So maybe you delegate to a friend, to someone who's closer to the situation, or to someone with more authority, like an MTA employee or a bartender. We have delay, which is following up with someone after something has happened. And again, this can be with the person causing harm or the person experiencing harm. And then we have the option to document. Documentation can be really helpful. It is really important to note with documentation that you are not posting or sharing anything that you record or document without the explicit consent of the person who has been harmed in that situation. And that's for their own safety and for yours. So bystander intervention boundaries are 2 great strategies that we could use to keep our relationships with all folks thriving. And SVR can be a resource for you in both of those things. So how do you connect with sexual violence response? We have our 24/7 helpline. You can also scan this QR code to find ways to make appointments. Our 24/7 helpline, like I said, is always available. It is always answered by a real person, and it is an excellent resource. So that is 212-854-4357 or help. We also have a business line where you can call with more administrative questions, or you can call to make an appointment. The business line is the 212-854-3500 number. The business line is only answered 9 to 5, Monday through Friday during business hours. But the helpline, again, is a 24/7 resource. We have our email where you can reach out. We have virtual and in-person appointments and drop-in hours at all 3 of our locations on Morningside campus, Barnard's campus, and at the CUIMC campus. Any student of any affiliation can go to any one of our locations. So if you're a Barnard student and you maybe don't want someone to see you walk into the Barnard SVR office, you can pop over to Morningside at Lerner Hall or even up to the medical campus. It is important for drop-in hours that you are checking our website for virtual hours of operation, or for virtual and drop-in hours of operation, excuse me, to make sure that we're operating at that time. And if for whatever reason we're not operating drop-in hours, if it's outside of our business scope, again, that helpline is a great resource that you can always reach out to. Some other resources at Columbia that you can access are confidential and not confidential. They're broken into 2 categories. Like we talked about towards the beginning, confidential resources, what you share with them stays between you and them. Not confidential resources are also great and supportive resources, but they do need to make a report to the university when they learn of instances of gender and power-based violence. To learn more about what that process looks like or to make a report, you can talk to any of the not confidential resources, including the Sexual Respect website at Columbia or the Office of Institutional Equity. If you're interested in getting more engaged with SVR, maybe you want to volunteer with us, maybe you want to attend an event, you can check out our website, or this QR code should take you to our application. To become a peer educator or a peer advocate, we have our next volunteer training coming up in January. And so we're currently accepting applications for that cohort and would love to see some new faces. You can learn about our services at our website, health.columbia.edu/SVR, or you can keep up with all of our events and happenings on our Facebook or at Columbia Health's Instagram, where they will be shared. So one final note from me before I pass it over to Gail to wrap us up is that it is really important both for your own well-being and for the well-being of your thriving relationships that you take care of yourself. Whether you're supporting a survivor or whether you're just going through a tough time with school, those things can tap into your emotional reserves. And so I want you to know that the resources that we've talked about today are available to you as a co-survivor, to you as a student, to you in any identity that you hold. And if you ever need support, that helpline number, the 212-854-HELP 4357, is always available to you any time of day or night.